Why is it that we put one encounter in front of one group and they clean it up? That same encounter will kill somebody else. It's because balancing the encounters is based upon mathematics. And when you look at Dungeons and Dragons, you'll hear two things: CR is just a guide, and CR is completely broken. And the internet is adamant about those two things, both on either side. And both are right and both are wrong. CR is a guideline. When you're looking at balancing an encounter to put an easy, medium, hard, deadly encounter in front of your players, you do and are balancing it to their level. Now, what are you balancing it to? The theme of the game. Now, we can talk about how utilizing resources in difficult and deadly encounters works and how to move those together and create a true encounter over the course of an adventuring day. That's all semantics, and it's things we can talk about. What we really want to look at, though, is what causes the problem to begin with. It's your players. It's 100% your players, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Every single table is different. My table, when I'm actually playing with my brother and his friends, or with my online friends, or the people who've been playing this game for 30 years, we think differently. We think tactically about the battles at hand. If I'm playing with my daughter and her friends, that game looks very differently. A lot of times they'll approach combat and it doesn't end in combat. They're willing to talk during combat, which we stopped doing years ago, which actually we've started doing because of them. Your table and your players playing the game will cause the encounters to work differently. And while mathematically they may balance, some players and tables will not be able to think tactically. Some players will play more in character and make suboptimal decisions. All of those little things will make a difference when it comes to your game. So that's what you have to consider. It's not necessarily that CR is broken, it's that you can use that as a mathematical balancing tool and then allow for your players to influence how you balance those games at your table. And so, to begin with, something that makes balancing encounters easy is making easy encounters with balanced action economy, which we've talked about, and putting that often in front of your players and getting your players to move quickly through combat. The more we engage in combat, the more comfortable we get with it, the faster we move. And so what happens a lot of times, especially for new dungeon masters, you will have a new DM, you'll have new players or a handful of new players, and combat seems to move slowly because everyone's trying to figure things out. Well, the more we engage in combat, the faster we move through, the more we work as a team. Imagine it the same as a combat team. Basically, you have a unit of soldiers learning to work together. If they've never practiced before, they've never drilled before, and they don't have the same skill set, they would be less effective in combat. The same thing goes for Dungeons and Dragons on the table. If we don't know how to work together as a team, we're now talking about strategy and tactics between each turn, trying to get everyone to do something else. And that makes for a lot more difficult games. The combat moves slower because we're talking tactics as opposed to taking action. And in my opinion, that's what combat on the table should be. It should be us taking action. You talk about tactics before and after combat, but during combat, you have a limited amount of time to make your actions. You're going to make suboptimal actions. You're going to learn from your mistakes, but you're going to learn how your character works because we're going to move across this table very quickly. That's my idea in learning how to balance encounters, is by doing it early, often, and with easier encounters in the beginning. A series of easy encounters makes for a great adventuring day and for you as a dungeon master to learn how your players are going to play. It also helps your players learn how to play. This doesn't just work for new tables. If I have a group of veterans that have never played together before and I don't allow tactical communication during combat, it feels more thematic. It feels more like a role-playing game because we are going to make those mistakes as a group as opposed to individually, and we're also not going to nitpick over every detail. In addition, I don't penalize my players for making the wrong decision. It's not life or death. If you cast the wrong spell, there is no right way to enter or end combat. And a lot of times, we will try to craft this story inside of our encounter so that way it has a great story because of what we see online. The stories come from the mistakes we make or the amazing things that pop into our head because we know what our abilities are, and the dungeon master may not know your abilities. One of the greatest things was in Critical Role when one of the characters gets knocked off and is falling down. Well, they had hexed a target and were able to teleport back to their target, bringing them back into combat as they were falling to their death. I don't know if Matt Mercer forgot that they had that ability, but I do remember the look on his face, and it looked genuine. I can't tell you how many times, as a dungeon master, my players have pulled an ability out or a magic item that I forgot about. Someone was once falling down, and they took out their movable rod and clicked it, and were hanging there and keeping themselves safe. It bought them rounds as they held on for dear life to the immovable rod to keep from falling to their death. Eventually, they were able to get out, leaving the immovable rod in the middle of the canyon because they couldn't get to it and save the person at the same time. A couple sessions, they came back later once they had learned to fly, flew over, got it, and it went back. They weren't going to leave their immovable rod there. But that's what they had, and they used it, and it was an amazing experience because I forgot they had it, and the character pulled it out at the last minute. So when you're doing encounters, it's not about crafting the story ahead of time. It's about letting the players making suboptimal decisions or decisions you didn't know happened during that encounter. Encounters can be easy, but if players are pushed, they will have to make decisions. They'll have to learn their character, which will help you as a dungeon master learn to balance on the fly. And the whole purpose of this video is really to talk about the idea of practicing the game and understanding that your players are what make the game hard or easy to balance. That's really the thing. Your players make the decision. Make the decision hard. Make the decision difficult. Make it hard to make a decision because you're going to use CR as a base. And then your players are going to die under what should be a balanced encounter. Yes, there are mechanics that will throw a wrench in that. Yes, there are monsters that don't fit into CR, but that's not what makes this hard. It's your players, and that's okay. And it becomes easier and easier and easier the more you know your group. If you do one combat a session and you play once a month, that means in 12 months you only have 12 times to practice. Keep that in mind. By the time you've played for a year, if you don't have giant epic combats, well, you've only had a couple of times to practice with that group. That's one of the reasons why I put lots of encounters in front of my party that are combat-based, because I love combat. As a dungeon master, that is my thing. That is what I enjoy. And my players know that too, because they also like combat, because I tell them, this is a combat-oriented game. So be ready to have counters, and we move fast. It is okay to make mistakes because you are the heroes. But if you learn together and you learn how to fight together, then it becomes faster, better, more erratic, but still fun. So keep that in mind. This entire section, I know it's weird to sit here and think of, well, how does this have to do with balancing? I know, it's having someone tell you, go practice more. But it's true. Players make the difference. And every time you run a combat for your group of players, you will learn them better, making balance easier. Now that I've been playing this game for 35 years, and I have dungeon mastered for new tables, current tables, I've dungeon mastered for kids, adults, veterans, brand new players. I've done 12 players at a time, 4 players at a time, solo players. I have a huge reference to pull on, which means that I can now navigate these encounters. And if I do something that should be balanced and it's unbalanced, I can adjust it quickly because of experience. For those of you who are new that are coming in, the easiest way to gain experience is to put lots of small, simple encounters in front of your players and see how they handle it. Give it a shot and tell me what you think. Does it help to keep that combat moving quickly so you and your players both get practice? I hope this helps, guys, and I know it's a little off topic, but it's so important. I wish someone would have told me. And as always, today should be Wednesday when I'm releasing this, but if it's not, we'll see you when? We'll see you next time.